Hello guys, in this video I'm going to tell you about Unity C# scripting and Unity interface. In the last video we have already talked about Unity interface, so there will be very little of it in this video. So let's get started. Now let's create an object to which the script will be attached. Scripts don't work when they are not attached. So we need to attach the script to an object. You might think you already have a camera and a directional light. Why don't you attach it to them? But sometimes we would be needing to show examples that include motion. But it wouldn't be a great idea to show a camera showing motion because in the game window nothing would be visible. And even in the scene window, it would be pretty hard to see the camera moving at a very fast speed. So, it is a better option to create a cube. Although scripts can be attached on this, but still, when we have a better option, why to choose these light and so let's create a cube. To create a cube, you need to go to Hierarchy panel, right click, and there would be a bunch of options. We need to create a 3D object. As we all know, cube is a 3D object. Let's click on cube. You can name it anything you want from here, but I'm going to let it be cube. Now you can notice that the cube's dimensions are taken randomly upon the position of my cursor on the screen, which is pretty messy. For example, I look here again and I want to spawn a ground for this cube. So I'm going to right click and follow the same procedure. And this is formed on a different height than this. So it would be pretty messy. And just copying the transform to this would be a much lengthier task. So let's create a common position where all will be there. So just reset the transform on this. Now it would be a common height above the grid and at the same position. Now if we create a new 3D object cube, just reset the transform on this, then it would be at the same height to it. So our object to which we will attach the script is ready. Let's also give this a color because white color is not very interesting. So let's create a color. To create a color, the colors in Unity are actually known as materials. So as we created, no, to create a material, just go here and click on create. On create, you will see a bunch of options. From here only, we are going to create a C# script. But right now, we need a material. Material is stored here next below the audio mixer option. So click on this. We can name it cube mat. Mat is the short form for material. You can name it anything you want. Now click on this and select any color. I'm going to go for a brighter red. Now it also has several options such as metallic. Metallic describes how much light will your material reflect, and smoothness describe how smooth your object will be. So I like increasing the smoothness and lowering down the metallic. There are many also such as normals which also define the reflection at specific parts and all this, but you do not need to know it right now, it will be taught in the later videos. Let's attach this to a cube. It is looking pretty good. You can also see the reflection. Now Let's create a script with which we will work. Right click on the project and click on create and a C# script. We are going to name it example. You can name it anything you want. Now you might see everything is stored in the assets folder, which is pretty messy. When you will work with larger projects, such as creating an actual game, which includes lots of thousands of assets, and storing this all over here, it would be piled up and finding things will be very difficult. So, it is always advised to create specific folder for specific things, such as Unity does it. For the files Unity creates separate folders. For example, this is the example scene Unity creates. It is stored here in the scenes folder. So we should also do the same. Create a folder. We are gonna call it materials and a folder for our scripts. Although our projects won't get very long, but still, it's a good practice. Now, let's actually open a script and see how it looks. Before, I'm going to tell you the extension for C# script is CS. As you might have understood, it's C stand for C and S for sharp. When you write it, it is written like this C#. The hashtag sign is put. For now, we are going to it. Now, let's open our example script. You might not be understanding anything which is written here. So, let me tell you step by step. These are the things. These are from where these functions come. All the functions are stored in things like Unity Engine, the system.collection.generic, etc. They are called namespaces. These functions are pre-coded by Unity into these namespaces. Now programming is divided into two things, which can be called logic and data. What does logic includes? Logic is equal to functions. These are the functions and data includes variables and several things like assets and components in Unity, but it is mostly made up of variables. When logic interprets data, some results are formed, such as we take an example of a script that allows a zombie to search for humans, then things such as zombies, speed, zombies, area of view, etc. all are data. The data is then applied by logic. The data stored in the form of variables, which I am going to tell you what is this later on, right now. So that data is used by the logic and the results are formed. And these logic is functions, and inside functions there are instructions written, such as dragon will breathe fire when I press space. This won't actually work, but these are instructions inside functions. A function is a group of instructions. So there are different types of functions. I'm going to tell about it later. Now let's understand what is this. Now the functions are together stored in the form of a class. The class, when you basically create a script, you're creating a class inside Unity. So you are creating a part of Unity. So it is a class of Unity, and the class name is example, which is the our script's name, because our script is actually a class. We are not programming at low level. Low level means like we are talking directly to the computer hardware. Now let's understand this. There are several layers like a matrix in which the things are they organized. First comes the processor, then comes the motherboard on which the processor is attached, then comes the BIOS, basic input output system. Then the BIOS gives the hold of the computer hardware to the operating system. Then the operating system gives control of specific hardware such as memory to Unity. And then Unity handles everything that your example script is saying it to do. So, if you were like writing in low level languages, these all things are not included. Like you code in binary, then you talk directly to the your computer's hardware. But we are not doing so. So we are actually creating a class inside Unity. This class inherits means all this is inherited. This thing is stored in mono behavior. Like mono behavior is the god of everything. Without mono behavior, these namespaces, nothing would be there. Mono behavior is everything. Mono behavior, it is written also mono behavior is the base class from which every Unity script tries. Like, you know. So, I've already told you what are functions. Now let's talk about variables. If you'd have viewed other people's video about tutorials, you would know what is variables. If you talk about any programming language, variables are included. Without variables, you cannot code. So let's talk about variables. Variables are things in which you store data. Variables, for example, you are going to make a zombie work at a certain speed. Let's call it zombies speed. This all will come as error because I'm not actually coding. I'm just typing zombie speed to be 5. Now you type certain functions and you cannot just write 5 everywhere. For example, if you press shift, now suppose you are talking about this move function into 5. 5. Then you make a function that if shift key is there, then this should just double up and change to 10. But this cannot happen because Unity cannot make changes into the script. This will remain 5. Unity can actually make changes to the script if you make this public, which I will tell later. But a script cannot change itself. So how do you think that you are going to change this 5 everywhere to 10? But if you use into zombies speed, the variable also. the variable. Then when you write if shift press, then zoom b's speed equals to 10, and it would be automatically changed here. So you need to learn about this. Now let me tell you how you can actually make variables in Unity. To make a variable, let's learn about certain types of variables. The most common types of variables are integers, which you should have learned in your maths classes. Integers, float, which is actually decimals. Float can also contain an integer value in itself. So I'm going to write here integer also. And then you have strings. Then you have array. Array is not usually used, so we'll talk about this in the later videos. It is a bit complex and it is not used. So let's focus on these. Creating a variable is very simple. It's really simple. Int, first define the type, integer, then name your variable. I'm going to name it number 1. Then you can just end this. And you can define it later on. Like here now you define it. Num1 equals 10. Remember to put this semicolon at the end of every command, because without this you will get plenty of errors. 10. Then another way is that you directly write here 10. Then another way is that you write int num. No, you write public int num1. You can wait. Let me tell you first. What does this public mean? Just Unity. Let me tell you that I use OBS Studio for recording, so that I do not need to cut it in my videos. You can manage to see it. So let us attach this to our example. Now you can directly edit it from here. 10, 20. Public actually makes it available on the inspector. Another type is private. If you don't write anything, it is private. The public, this thing public, not only makes it available right here on the inspector, but also makes it available on other scripts. Like if you create another script and try to declare num1, it would actually gain access to it. Many a times when you are working on larger projects, say uh, like variables with same name and different functions might be needed to create it. But if you declare it, it will change on the other script also, so it won't work the way you expected. So sometimes you only need it to appear in the inspector panel just for your ease. Then first of all you declare it as private. Now it is private, no other script can access it. It won't be there on the inspector. Now type this code in bar brackets serialize field. Yeah, FIELD, serialize field. Then it would be private also, and then it would be on the inspector tool. That's it. Now this is the way you create integers. Now let me tell you how to create floats. It is pretty much the same thing. Float num1 equals to 5.5. Done. But this is not correct. For floats, you actually need to type an F here to declare that it is a float value. You just have to do it. It's a rule. And the other options like public and declaring at other time also works with floats. Now let me tell you what is strings. Strings, such a string. Let's create a string as my name equals to, I'm not going to tell my name, let's call it MMG. Now it is used to create things. Strings means a bunch of letters together. You can also put a space here and type anything you want. Now let me prove to you that these variables actually contain anything. So, and also let me prove to you that start is called at the start of the game. If I would have told you, if not, I am telling you now that start is called at the start of the game. When you click this button over here, which is for play, the very first thing that gets called is start. Then is the update. Update, once the start is called, it is repeated again and again and again. Means like start done, then update is done. It is done continuously. If you would have played games, then you would have known about FPS equals not that first person perspective, not that, frames per second. Yeah, frames per second means like I'm moving this mouse. It is like a picture that is getting drawn on my screen again and again and again. Means this little bit is drawn, then little bit is drawn, and such is. It is like a stop motion animation. So it is drawn again and again and again. The more number of frame rates, the smoother it will be. Like my mouse movement from this point to this point has been displayed. The more number of frames will be there, the lesser number of distance would be traveled in each frame, meaning the more the FPS will be, the smoother the movement will be. But this update function works on this only. Every frame, it might have been like 2000 or that many frames when I move this to from this point to this point. So with each frame, update gets called and it is not a constant. For example, you set speed to 30 for a zombie and a person is having 60 frames. So it is going to move 30 frames, 30, like call it meters, 60 times in one click. Just take it as an example. Now, if somebody is having an even faster compute, 30 meters, 120 frames is there on his in one click. Let me open the calculator. Although you know that 30 into 60 and 30 into 120 is different, it is coming 1800, and 30 into 120, 3600. This would be the difference in the movement. So, this is not actually well used for things like physics and movement. What is used is fixed update, not all caps, fixed update. Yeah, now I've typed it correctly. Fixed update. Not yet. I'm going to type it again. Let me try it. Yeah, I don't know why I typed this only, but it wasn't coming. Fixed update. It repeats itself again and again and again, but it does not take the FPS. Like it repeats it every 1 millisecond. So doesn't matter what the FPS is, it will repeat itself. So let's bring back our old friend update. Now let me tell you, public and private also works for functions. Void update. Yeah. Now you might not understand why public and private is there for update, because these things are called automatically by Unity. For example, you create another function, private void shooting. So now it is, let's create it public void shooting. Now it won't start automatically. You would need to call it at some point. You can call it by write it name and shooting, and then these brackets, and do not forget the semicolon at all. Now suppose let me create a scenario. You are shooting at one script. In one script, there is a function for you to shoot. But at another script, for any specific reason, it also wants you to shoot. For example, when your enemy hits you 10 times, automatically you should shoot, and you create a script for that. So, you shouldn't be creating the shoot function all over again with new variables and everything. You can just call the shoot function there also in the other script, and it would be called just as it is called in this script. So this is the function of private and public. Now I was going to demonstrate to you that variables actually contain things, but I got involved in something else. So let me tell you. Let's create three types of variables: integer, float, and strings. Integer num1 equals to 5. Float num2 equals 5.5. And string my name equals, they are put in quotes. Everything that you type which is not a variable or a logic, you have to type it in double quotes. My name. You can call me unknown and semicolon. Now there's actually a function called, no, it is actually an instruction. All instructions are already built in Unity. This instruction is called debug.log. And you have to type your context between these two brackets. Debug.log prints things into the console. It won't let you like this would a box will appear and it would appear that it is saying no. It would print this thing whatever we type here. Let me demonstrate to you and you will understand it that way better. When you are typing anything for like started, okay, so this will be in double colon, but if you are printing any variable, it does not need to be in the quotes. So let me type num1 colon. Let's copy this on num2 also. My name. This is only update, it is not error. Started 5, 5.5 and unknown, which proves that these variables actually contain these things. Let's try one more thing. Let's delete this. Debug.log started, and in update we are going to call the same debug.log update. I'm gonna save this. This is just a warning, this is not an error. The warning says that I have defined my name number1, number2, but I have never used it. So it won't create any error. Errors are created in green hexagons with a exclamation mark in between. That would actually affect. These are just useless things. We are going to run it for a very little time because update gets called a lot of times. Started update. Now update function is being called. Let me tell you a few things you should do, which commonly people make the error. First of all, This is my another video. First of all, the most common error they make is not putting this semicolon. Semicolons you should never forget. And another things, this has usually happened with me when I was first learning, that I used to create a script but I did not attach it. This is really important. If whenever I had an error, I used to just check and check and check and check and did not realize that it is not being attached. If your actual script was not running, it would have shown an error on this. And errors are of two types: compile time errors and runtime errors. In compile times error, here my error window is actually minimized. It would show you here only, or here if you do not see. When you would save, even if you do not run, it will show you here only. These are really easy to fix and common, but runtime errors are usually large errors that might take you time to correct and find. Is when you run your game, then runtime errors are being called. Also, it is not advisable that you keep symbols or space in your names, such as example. It is all fine, but you cannot name it C sharp. It might give you some errors because the example here should exactly match the example written here. And sometimes, like if I write C sharp, it might only write C here, which will not let you attach this example to this. Let me just try this and show it to you. For I write example 1. First, let me remove this component. Save. Let's compile it. And let's try to attach it. It won't attach because the script class cannot be found. This class is example1 and this is example. So the class with the name example cannot be found. So if I change it to example back, save it, I'm not save it, let it compile, and then try to attach it. It is attached. Also remember to check this tick box. Also, you can create a script by going here, new script, and attach a script and name it. It automatically attaches for you. And if you want to add an existing script, there would be an option of script set. You can add anything you want with from the scripts that you have created. Now, if this is disabled, none of this will occur. But these all are little things. They are even something better than this. Is the awake function. It is also a function that is created by Unity on itself. It is called void awake. This is the awake function. Let's call something on it debug dot log awake. And let's test it out. I also wanted to do an experiment that if I just untick this, will awake work? But awake works first. Stop. Awake started update. This is the order. Let's disable it and Awake should work. Yeah, Awake works, even if the script is disabled. Now I can teach you guys a lot in one video only, but it would be too long and I won't gain any views. So this is it for this video. There is a lot to be learned about functions only, and it is very vast. And part 2 would probably be released day after tomorrow. I'm working on several series right now. This is the C Sharp playlist. If you want other videos or if you have any question, you can just ask it in the comment section. And please just like and subscribe to our channel. This video create it takes a lot of time and effort, and a lot of mistakes are made while making the video, so I have to redo and teach you guys. I also do not do any voiceover, and I'm just speaking while teaching you guys, so it takes a lot of effort. And I would be very happy if you could subscribe to our channel. Also, I'm just 11 years old, so support is necessary. I'm a kid. Thank you. And I use OBS. I will not edit this. It would be here as it is. Okay.